What up, everybody, and welcome back to another Thai Talk. Now, today I'm very excited. It's a special day because I'm doing something I've never done before. We are making Thai Talks history. I'm having my first ever guest. I'm excited to talk to one of my favorite people about one of my favorite shows, Queen Sugar.
Keep the colors in the lines. Keep the colors in the lines. Take flight.
Well, Megan, welcome to Talk Talks. You are my first guest ever, so that's pretty big. Give yourself a hand, a cheer for that. I am really excited. So, do you want to just start off by telling the people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Megan. I'm super excited to be a part of this When Tide Talks. I'm born and raised in Durham and started watching Queen Sugar this summer. Actually, my first episode was maybe the finale of season 2, first episode of season 3, while watching just alongside my mom, who is a big fan. Um, it sucked me in immediately, and I kept asking her a bunch of questions in terms of like, can you just catch me up? And she was like, no, you need to start from the beginning. So excited to just be here today to talk a little bit more about Queen Sugar, and glad that I kind of stumbled upon it.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here as well. I know you and I have been discussing Queen Sugar a lot around while you've been rewatching it. I know I just tried to rewatch the season 5 premiere in the finale before we talked today because I know it had been a while, but you just got through all 5 seasons this summer. And so what we're gonna do, quick rundown of what we're gonna do with the people today. I'm gonna hear your overall thoughts about the show. We are gonna discuss some themes that have stuck out. We are gonna go character by character, dive in. That should be fun. And then, of course, I have some speed round questions for you. I think that should be fun as well. And then we'll end up on some season 6 predictions. So, you ready to dive in?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So, I've told the Win Talk fans before that I think Queen Sugar is the best show about Black people on TV right now. So, as you have experienced all 5 seasons this summer, what are your overall thoughts about the show?
Yeah, I think so. Queen Sugar, I think, has become one of my favorite shows, and I think I would agree with your statement that it's one of the best shows really featuring Black people. Um, I love like how they show the relationships between the different characters, and I think that's one of the things I feel like I sometimes miss from shows that really like feature Black folks, Black families, Black communities. Um, and when I think about just dramas in general, I often will be drawn to like the storyline or the plot, but there may be some characters that feel like a hit or miss. But with Queen Sugar, it's like the story is both rich, but I feel so deeply connected to the characters too. And that feels really new to me, like something that I haven't experienced in a while, like deep writing, a deep sense of connection to literally every character, whether I agree with them or not, whether I vibe with them or not, like I still feel deeply connected to each of them. And I think that's really shown with the care that's taken into the writing. So um, yeah, my overall thoughts is that Queen Sugar is incredible. Um, I think the depth around land and just the connection land plays for Black people across generations is powerful. And it's been interesting just reflecting even how land shows up within my own family, particularly in Beaufort, where like there's so much change happening. I don't have farmers in my family, but land there feels very present. So that has been a really cool connection. And then even with that serving as the backdrop to kind of go deeper into each of the personal lives of the characters and seeing them beyond the land has been really exciting too.
Thank you for sharing that. Can you talk about maybe some of your I know we hit on your overall thoughts, but kind of some of your favorite things as you watch the show.
Yes. I think the kind of primary theme of family has been really cool. And I mentioned like really loving the sense of relationships that we see within all of the characters. And so the presence of family and care that is displayed between Charley and Micah, and then even just the family core between Ralph Angel, Darla, and Blue has been really beautiful. And the family relationship between Vi and Hollywood, like those kind of three cores have been really cool. But then to also see how family is presented among the community of farmers, like all of the Black farmers, and just the aspect of holding one another together, and then also holding one another accountable when people may not agree with certain political decisions that someone within the community may make. That family presence has been there really since season 1. So that's kind of been a really cool thread that has stuck with me. And then I think too, like the sense of growth, which I don't know if that is really considered a theme, but for each character, I'm thinking about Charley specifically, and like Charley and Micah's relationship. There's just been so much growth there. And we see so many people leaning into wanting to grow, even when they may kind of like hit a sense of stubbornness of like not wanting to move or feeling like they're very much in the right. We still see them kind of leaning into growing and changing for the betterment of kind of their family or their community.
Yeah, that's great. It's so interesting hearing you saying some of the things which we have been talking a lot, but it's some of my favorite things about the show as well. So we kind of hit on themes, and I think there are a few people that I know that I've been watching the show with, that I know like this show, that we all been watching since it came out. We have a mutual friend, Ashley, that has been watching the show the entire time, and her and I will often talk. But I don't think it wasn't until I started having the conversations with you that I really started diving into thinking about the themes that stood out in the show. So I know we've discussed a lot, but are there any other themes that you want to hit on or dive deeper into? I know you mentioned family, you mentioned growth.
Yeah, I think so. I guess another theme that feels really connected to our current time in terms of social issues is even just the theme of Blackness, which, I mean, was definitely explored greatly within season 5, which I think is reflected in kind of that intentional shift in writing to really match COVID-19, the impact of COVID-19, but then also social protest and unrest happening across the country. But outside of season 5, we do see this theme of Blackness and exploration of Black identity across season 1 and 4. And I think it's interesting to kind of see Micah interrogate his own Blackness, and even seeing like how does he define Blackness for himself? Is he, as kind of a young person, a young high school student who is now in the South, is he kind of leaning into a Black identity that feels more stereotypical, feels more kind of brand new from his uprising, or is it something that he really feels deeply connected to? And so I think it was very cool to kind of see Micah in season 5, because really like the end of season 4 of him coming into his own in terms of leadership and advocacy that felt more defined by him and not as defined by the social advocate that is Nova, his aunt. I think we see that self-definition continuing to him really being in college as a first-year student and deepening into what does being a Black man mean to me in this moment, both culturally, socially, politically. So I think that's definitely been a prominent theme and has been exciting to just see explored within Micah specifically. If other themes come to mind, I will hop them in.
Yeah. I know going back to your, I think, well, first with Micah, I think one of the things, I think that's why I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Micah myself, because I think just, my career, I'm a student affairs practitioner. So I daily work with students around the age of Micah's character, and they are going through those exact same things. So I see a lot of my students in Micah actually. Going back to
And
your point
I think
about growth earlier, I think one of the things that I would add on to that as well is it's also been in that growth has also been a lot of redemption as well for a lot of these characters. So I think about Charley and some of the bad or questionable moral things she did right for Hollywood or for that business world, and how she's kind of changed over that. Or you think about Ra's redemption from being locked up and placed in jail, and Darla's redemption from coming back from being an addict. So all that redemption and growth go together. So I think those were great points. I feel like something that you and I have talked about before, and it kind of goes back to the connection to the land, but I feel like the show does a great job of not only connecting each of the borderlands back to the land, but also in that connection back to Ernest as well. So for a character we only
definitely.
literally saw one episode, right? Because he died in the season premiere. I feel like they always connect back to him, and he seems to be almost like a moral compass for a lot of them.
hmm Yeah, I think hearing you say that, it reminds me of legacy. And I think that's definitely like a very, very big piece. And I want to say it's maybe in the kind of preview trailer of season 6, where I think it's Darla is telling Ralph Angel, like, your dad's legacy is not just the land, it's about family. And so I think always being able to connect back to him, and even learning about Ernest through narratives, through photos that Nova has discovered, through the ball that Ernest left as a birthday gift for Blue, like just seeing all of these kind of remnants of him, even though we, again, like you mentioned, we only actually saw him for maybe the first 2 episodes of season 1, has definitely been really powerful.
Yeah, that's great. So I think, of course, we can still, as themes come up, because I feel like a lot of these themes connect back to these characters as well. But want to start diving into the characters. And the first one, I intentionally chose her to be number 1, be the first character we talked about. But let's talk about Nova. Which I think all my viewers know, the few times I have talked about Queen Sugar, and if they've seen any of my tweets, my timeline, I don't like Nova at all. I respect her, but I don't like her. So yeah.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about Nova?
We serve comfort food to those who need comfort, and we do it with our own hands. That's how a family does a repass.
Yeah. So I know something I've mentioned to you multiple times is I really want better for Nova. Like I try to like vibe and flow with Nova, and there's just always something, like her always overstepping or doing a little bit too much. And something else that I've talked with you about a lot is just, I think out of all of the characters, Nova is who I feel I know less. And I don't know if that's because, I don't know if I'm saying that because I really want to like vibe and flow with her, and so I'm continuously trying to give like the benefit of the doubt, or if I just I genuinely feel like I know a little bit less in terms of even like what is kind of driving certain decisions or interactions really at the core. And so, for example, I really struggled a lot with her storyline in the most recent season. And I don't know if I would have been able to like watch the most recent season as it was live, because I just generally found watching shows about the pandemic or about the movement for Black lives, I found that difficult to engage within the summer. But her relationship with whiteness, not even so much her relationship with Calvin, even though I really don't like Calvin at all, but her relationship with whiteness has always been super interesting to me, and I think confused me a little bit more in season 5, like with her kind of stepping into this role as more of an educator for Calvin's daughter, really kind of stepping into like educating what does it mean to be an ally. And I think just seeing her sort of navigate white spaces, particularly with Calvin's family, and her discomfort with learning that Calvin has pursued other Black women, like all of these things and links to whiteness just confused me. I think especially as we see her in other seasons, particularly with Black characters, and I think Black men, like I don't remember his name, but that doctor,
Dr. Du Bois.
Yeah, bringing her to that like fancy performative party type thing, and her like vocally voicing her discomfort with like having to perform in front of white people, having to kind of conform to get some form of acceptance. And I mean, yes, it's different, I guess, because she is in love with Calvin. So like the aspect of being in love, the aspect of being like quarantined with someone who you just essentially didn't have the permission to be with deeply and intentionally because he was married and you didn't want to be seen, and all of these layers, like it definitely is different. But I think I just want to know more about like her perspectives on relationships, her perspectives even on love, and like what is it about Calvin. I haven't seen enough, I think, of her and Calvin's relationship to really understand the true depth that is there, unless I like completely missed it, since I don't like Calvin, which is like totally possible, but I don't think I have. And so I'm curious about that. I'm curious about, again, her relationship to whiteness and how that may have even played out in her undergraduate experience. Like, I think, I don't know if Cree Summers' character, I think she showed up in season 4 maybe, but I was wanting a little bit more background even about their relationship when Nova was one of her students, and like hearing Nova's observations of one of Cree Summers' current students, like her mentioning, oh, you're still grooming folks. Like I feel like we've seen a lot of things, a lot of glimpses of things, but haven't actually dove deep. One of kind of like the true depth moments I think that I've gotten, which I understand a little bit more, is her kind of like complicated relationship with her father, and like thinking about the aspect of like both sexuality and wanting children. And so I think we maybe got that or learned about that within season 2 or season 3. And I think that definitely connected with even just how strongly she feels about her mother and like wanting to uphold her mom's legacy specifically. And so I just want to uncover a little bit more, because I think it will just make Nova, not her decisions okay, but it'll just make it make a little bit more sense. And like the last thing I'll say is with Nova, I think one point of frustration I find myself having is like, it's real, like it's also real, which I think the show does a good job with capturing everyday real life and everyday real conflict, and how we live our lives can sometimes be in direct conflict with the things we say that we value and the things that we really try to like uphold and live into. And so I think with Nova's character, I think it's frustrating seeing that on the screen, even though it's real. Like she values like advocacy, she values community, she values like uplifting individual strengths, and like she values all of these things, but then in some of her everyday actions, like, you know, sometimes undercutting and undermining Ralph Angel, her brother, and like not recognizing the times where, you know, she's honoring people within her community, and honoring the lived experiences of people in her community, but not seeing how she could do that within her own family. And I think we see that particularly again with Ralph Angel, his experiences of being incarcerated, his experiences of really like transforming his own life, particularly like as it relates to being a father for Blue, and her not like really honoring that beyond her words. And then also with Darla, I know that we see Nova apologize for her book, which that in itself like can take up so much space, but we do see Nova apologize like for the book and like specifically for the chapter she wrote about Darla, but I'm still stuck on kind of Nova making that decision that the way in which I painted and portrayed you, Darla, like I'm showing your strength. And in Darla's eyes, like, no, the strength is how I am living my life in this moment, right here and right day. The strength is how I have taken charge like of my life. And you're not seeing that, you're not capturing that. So those are my thoughts.
That was a lot of good stuff too. A lot of good stuff. I think one of the things that I was thinking about as you was talking was with Nova, you talked about, it seems like it's almost like an iceberg, right? Like you see the picture of the iceberg where we always get the tip of like, there's something here with Nova, but we never see what's under the surface. And part of me was thinking, and I feel like we've had this conversation too, is that, because we talk about the writing of Queen Sugar a lot, right? Is that a flaw in the writing where the writers haven't given us that? Or is it genius writing because that's Nova's character? Nova is she doesn't go much past the surface with herself a lot in the show. And so we don't get to see it as viewers. The book could be a whole talk within itself. Honestly, I have a lot of feelings about the book. I had a lot of feelings watching that season live about the book. I definitely think part of Nova's problem is that I feel like she's gotten off pretty easy, realistically, based off some of the things that she's done. And I think one thing is hard with Queen Sugar, is almost hard to, because of how the show is written, it's almost hard to actualize how much time has passed either between episodes or within a season. And so I really don't know how long Nova was isolated from the family, but I felt like watching season 4 that she was forgiven a lot quicker than I thought she should have been. And it kind of like just snowballed, and it was almost like, you know, the last couple of episodes, by the end of the season, she was like good with the family. And I felt like maybe there needed to be a little bit more reconciliation, and then maybe she could think about the stuff that she do more. But yeah, we can talk all day about Nova, honestly. Um, I really appreciate your point about the stuff that she do for the community, but not necessarily within her own family. And I think I told you before that I feel like Nova does a lot of what we call in our equity field, a lot of window work. She looks a lot at other places and outside of her own self a lot, and thinks about things that needs to be fixed, provides the solutions and the ways those things that can be fixed, but she does not look inward at all. Or maybe she does, but not deeply, I don't think. And is very interesting because of, I was just watching, like, she always meditates and stuff like that. And you would think that would be more of that. Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
Nova.
I think the one kind of like last thing I'll say connected to that, because again, like that's so real. Like that
Uh-huh.
Nova is so real, like in terms of being a person. And I
Yeah.
think it's hard when you realize, like when you kind of engage in introspection and maybe realize that, oh, I did something wrong. Like I did something deeply wrong. I did something deeply out of alignment with my values, and like, how do I move forward? How do I even hold my own self accountable? And I think seeing her like as a community organizer, Ida B. Wells, like, is her kind of symbolic compass, it sounds like, since maybe high school, definitely undergrad, and like still within her work as a writer and reporter. And so, and I think each season we have kind of seen Nova's reflection in terms of her role in, is it Sweet?
Sweet Life.
What is
Sweet Tooth?
Sweet Tooth? Yeah, like we see
Yeah.
glimpses, I think, each season of her reflecting on her role.
Too
And
sweet. I'm
too
sorry.
sweet, too sweet, too sweet, too
I
sweet.
gave him every name except his right name, but too sweet.
Too sweet. Her role in like selling the weed, and that weed is what got him caught and incarcerated. And like her trying to redeem herself, even if she's not explicitly saying it. Like I think it's maybe season 3 where she actually visits Too Sweet at college and puts voice to what she feels like was her responsibility, and Too Sweet saying like, you don't need to hold this weight, like this is not on you. But I think that has, like, with her relationship with Too Sweet, I think we do see how deeply, like, her feeling responsible, her feeling guilty, like how heavy of a weight that was, and her kind of moving behind the scenes to use the money that Charley saved for the farm to bail Too Sweet out. And as we like ended with season 5, and I'm curious to see how this will play out in season 6, like her learning about Calvin's role specifically with what could have been an incredible student athlete who was paralyzed because of the police. And so like her learning that, like, I think with Nova, the actress who plays Nova, and really all of them, like, I am always so struck by like how they act with their entire bodies, and specifically their face. Like Nova, her face, like, she's just an incredible actress. And so in that conversation where she learns about Calvin, you can just see everything get sucked. And so I'm curious, like, obviously she didn't do anything. Like, she was not involved in that situation at all, but she's already articulated a deep sense of shame, a deep sense of guilt. And I'm just curious, like, what that heaviness may show up for her like. And so in some ways, that could possibly be why, like, engaging in internal reflection up until a point where it doesn't like take over, that could be really like what we're seeing with Nova, because again, with Too Sweet, there was a lot of guilt there, and we saw that kind of playing out in her actions and like externalizing in terms of activism, right? And so what if she deeply reflected on like the true impact of her book and like the true sense of mistrust within her family, like what could that have been within her character? So
I promise, I think I tell you this all the time, but you really be trying to change my opinion on these characters. Cause you be giving, I be done made my mind up on them, and you just like come up with something. So yeah, that I'll be interested to see what happens with Nova this season. Then this next season, that's gonna be big. So moving on to the next oldest borderline sibling is Charley, Charlotte. Yeah, my favorite character. So I could talk all day about Charley, but yeah, what's your thoughts about Charley?
I need to know right now. Did you have anything to do with that fire?
So Charley, I think Charley's also my favorite character. I like already mentioned that so I already mentioned that my starting point, my introduction to truly to Queen Sugar was like finale season 2, beginning of season 3, maybe with my mom. And I remember asking her like, who do you like? And she was like, I like everyone. And I was like, but who is your favorite? And she said Charley. And I was interested to just see if I would feel similarly. And yeah, definitely do. I think we have seen maybe some of the most growth and like humility with Charley's character. And like, we talked a lot in terms of Nova, we talked a lot about internal reflection, and that has, I think, seeing Charley reflect on herself, like, has been some of the most powerful scenes to me, like in kind of season 1, like being confronted with, what do you mean you're gonna have a mill? What do you mean you're gonna have a farm? Like, are you truly gonna engage with us as Black farmers authentically, or are you just doing this because you're like soul searching, finding yourself, like connected to that magazine article and interview, and her like reflecting on that, like thinking that she was in the right and like not seeing anything wrong with it, but then taking actually the perspectives and again the lived experiences of other people, reflecting on that, and then finding a way to move forward and prioritize trust. And we see that was season 1, and we see that continuously up until season 5. And thinking about those themes, like again, Charley and Micah's relationship has been like really beautiful to see. I was not expecting like to even, I don't even know what I was expecting, what I had assumed like Charley's story of motherhood to be. But to actually learn in season 5, like, oh, she had Micah when she was in college, and like really felt initially that she was a single mother because Davis, of course, was always playing basketball, but even beyond that, not feeling like she had a ton of support. And so even in being in a relationship with Davis in college and like having this family housing on campus or whatever, she still felt alone and like had to lean into this strong like sense of being that she has been able to try to cultivate throughout her childhood, to both support Micah as a baby, but then also support herself as a college student to really still make the goals and things that she was dreaming for. And we never saw that. We never heard any of that. And so I think like that just kind of added another layer of depth to me in terms of like Charley as a character, but then also Charley as a mother. And I think really with season 4, season 5, I think we see so many layers, like so many additional layers with Charley as a mother, because this is really where we're seeing Micah try to be independent and try to be like, Charley, what you doing? Like, I'm a grown man, I can make my own decisions, like you don't know what's best. But then him always just realizing, okay, my mom truly does want what's best for me, and her decisions, her actions, even like her protection of me, like her not disclosing that this was not the first death threat you have received, her not disclosing I have COVID and like literally didn't know if I would make it, like her not disclosing these things, not saying if it's right or wrong, like it's none of us have a place to really judge what you as a mother, you as a caregiver would have done in that moment, but seeing him recognize the certain things she's done, the certain decisions she's made as a mother, and like that being an avenue for them deepening their own relationship, I really loved that. And yeah, she like so much power. And I think what feels really exciting, and I mean, we start to see this, I think, in season 4, but like season 1 through 3, I feel like we see this very like strong, stoic Charley cry, break down by yourself in your own room and like put on this face for everyone to see that like I have it together. And in some ways in season 4, like within the political sphere, and then in season 5 with keeping this experience of COVID really to herself, I mean, those can still be examples of being strategic about what you portray in terms of daily life struggle or like a point of vulnerability. But with season 4, I feel like we really see Charley begin to like tap into gentleness, and I just loved that. Like I think we saw that with, you know, the possible love interest of the doctor, and even though it didn't work out, like that felt like really exciting, like seeing her know that she can be soft, and seeing her know that, you know, she can have like full body laughs, you know, like we've seen Charley laugh, but I think in the most recent couple of seasons, we're really seeing like just these different emotions. I think the different kind of fuller emotions of Charley, which has been really cool. And I'm very excited to see like how her having COVID, like how that will shape who she is in season 6, because there were just kind of multiple moments. I can't pinpoint specific ones from memory, but I feel like there were multiple moments in season 6 where we really see her thinking about things in a totally new way. We saw that, of course, with like her and Davis. And we started to see that like when she discovered like the maybe town ordinance that a highway can't be built right now because of this sense of like chaos within the town. Like she learned of that literally as she was losing breath. But I think that if she were to re-pick that up, I'm just curious like how she will show up as like a political advocate now, and kind of like this sense of her realizing like me prioritizing my own self-care and me making sure I am okay, like that can be all I do right now. I feel like Davis kind of reminded her of that. And then also like kind of being on the edge of death in a way, like literally losing breath, feeling like you can't breathe. I think there was just so many layers there. So I'm really excited to see just like how her mind shifts and like what she's thinking now, what she's feeling now in season 6. I can't remember if I mentioned this to you, but one of the things with season 5 that I was curious about with, what is Tegan's actual like character's name?
Parker.
I was curious, knowing that Parker like abruptly left to go to New York. I just assumed, oh, she went to New York because of something COVID related. And then we never heard about Parker again, beyond Charley trying to see like what is going on, investigating more about Parker. And then she, of course, is in the trailer for season 6.
Yeah.
And I think is kind of coming with some intense energy, like to the Board Alone women. But I'm curious, you know, if COVID was a part of Parker's storyline, if that will be explored, and like if that might be a point of kind of coming together and even resolve between Parker and Charley, like possibly a sense of empathy. And, you know, I know that the last year for many of us has kind of just allowed for more reflection and thinking. I know for myself, like living within the pandemic year and still living through it, like thinking about what is actually important. And so curious what that will be for these two people on conflicting political sides, like how that will show up.
Yeah, I'm interested in that as well, because I believe Parker was going to be around the entire season before they had to rework season 5, and that actress, we just said her name, Amira.
Parker. Oh yeah, Amira.
She was pregnant, so I'm assuming that's why when they went back to film in the COVID filming, that's why she didn't go back. So I'll be interested to see how they continue on that storyline. I know one thing watching the premiere, it was very interesting because I felt like there were 2 moments that stuck out where one, Parker went over to Charley after something happened in court that ruled in Charley's favor, I think. They was holding off the evictions, I think. And Parker was like, congratulations, let me shake your hand, da, da, da. And Charley wasn't really giving her that energy back. And then Charley invited her to the meal and she was like, I wanted you to see like this just was not mine, it was ours, it's the community, and da 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 da. And in that moment, Parker didn't give Charley that energy back. So they are very much I think alike in certain ways. And I very much enjoy both of those actresses. So I'm definitely looking forward to more scenes between them. I feel like before we move off of Charley, I do want to I don't have him down as a separate character, but what are your thoughts about Davis in this rekindling of the relationship? And like we've talked about growth and we've talked about redemption some and how that is for Davis. I'm one of the people who I felt like him having the secret love child kind of like came out of nowhere in terms of his story progression. It made for some great scenes in season 3 and season 4 and great moments, but I felt like it was kind of like out of nowhere. But what are your thoughts on Davis and them rekindling that relationship?
Yes, I'm so surprised like how much I love this. I especially like having watched all of the seasons at once. it may have been season 3 where I had like messaged, why is Davis still on my screen? Like,
You did.
just very, very ready for him to like exit the Queen Sugar storyline completely in the same way that Remy just dipped. And we have not even heard Remy's name, but I mean, I think the show like has done a good job of just having all of us realize that regardless of where Charley and Davis are, they will always be a part of one another's life.
Yeah.
And I like initially like felt kind of stuck realizing that Davis in this moment is the only person Charley feels like she can call and he will actually come.
Mhm.
Seeing him like in this caregiving role was really cool. Like we up until this point like really hadn't seen Davis as a caregiver. We saw him as this immature like jerk,
Selfish. Yeah.
like it all being about him. And even in times where he tries to care for Micah, that felt complicated. So this just seemed to be one of the first moments where we actually saw him as a caregiver, which I think also speaks to really the impact and reality of COVID, where like all of us had to slow down. Like there really was no choice.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see like where Charley and Davis go. I think being able, it's hard to even say new side. Like I feel like that side was always there and it just became a little bit more difficult to see given the reality of like his actions and all of what he did.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we were able to see that moment of them like walking in the park or something and her just straight up asking like, who are you? Like, who are you now? And is this actually real? And him saying, yes, it is, this is me. And I guess
tears.
go ahead.
Oh, I said, yeah, in tears.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think this connects to like another theme of this show, like, which I think it's maybe more of a theme of like the writing, like showing the fullness of these characters, because with Davis, after like season 1, season 2, I had written him full out, and everything else that showed up with him, the secret love child, him like coming to Charley's door and thinking he's about to kiss her, like after you say you have like a 13-year-old daughter, you think she's gonna welcome you with open arms. Like everything he was doing just felt bizarre, but we kind of see like a more full rounded out, again, growth like within this character, and decide that we wouldn't have been like Charley wouldn't have been able to see this if this environment like wasn't created, if she wasn't in like a setting where I have to see Davis every single day for a few weeks, because who else am I going to see? No one else is here. So yeah, definitely really excited about that. I'm curious what Davis and Micah's relationship will be though, because I don't have a clear sense that Micah like actually realizes that they will be exploring. Like I think up until this point, we really only know that Vi may know something since Charley asked her perspectives. And so we saw Micah showing like Davis and Charley either pictures or videos of his time protesting, but I don't think we have a clear sense that he realizes, like Dad didn't just come because he felt like he had to. Dad came because he wanted to, and there is still love here that they're likely going to be pursuing. And so don't really have a sense of how we'll see Davis as like a father, like what that growth will be. So
it's an interesting point you say that, because one of the things I remembered this from watching the show, but it stuck out a lot again just when I watched the finale, the season 5 finale again. When Charley told Micah that it was Davis that came over, he literally was like, he didn't even respond to it. He was just like, I'm coming home, and hung up.
yes.
And it's just, yeah. And so it's gonna be interesting what that looks like. So I guess moving on to, because we still have a few more characters to hit on. Ralph Angel, the baby boy at home.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about Ralph?
The first day I saw you, I knew my heart was in trouble. Not being with you wasn't an option.
Yes, Ralph Angel. I really like Ralph Angel. He has grown like so much. So much. Yeah, I really like Ralph Angel. I think seeing him in the last couple of seasons, like really kind of like owning, like being a farmer, recognizing that he is a leader. Like when he had other farmers that he was able to employ, and like seeing his relationship with them, his relationship with the one farmer who came to him looking for a job because he just got out of jail, and like really supporting him. Like that has been cool, seeing how Ralph Angel has showed up in other people's lives, and also him realizing that he is someone who is able to provide support, and like he does have the capacity to lead. He does have the ability to be a great father. Because I think in the earlier seasons, you know, I think there were sometimes he felt like he was owed certain things just for being who he was, you know, but and sometimes like we see him in the earlier seasons kind of struggle against how his family may kind of box him in terms of whether he's actually responsible, whether he can actually handle certain things, and him saying that he can, but maybe his actions don't necessarily show that. And so in the most recent seasons, I think the actions and the words truly are lining up, because he himself is actually believing that I am capable, I am able, and I'm doing it. Like I am doing it right now. And yeah, with Ralph Angel, I think one of my favorite things about his character is really just seeing him with Blue, and him with Darla, which I know we've talked a lot about, I guess maybe like season 2, season 3, where he learns that Blue actually is not his son, and like how that shows up with how he treats Darla, how he's speaking to Darla. And I think in the same way, his family would sometimes box him in the initial seasons. He was doing that in the same way with Darla, like kind of boxing her in when she was just trying to see Blue in the first few seasons. And so I think the same way we see progression in terms of Ralph Angel's portrayal within his own family, we see that same growth of Darla's portrayal in her relationship with Ralph Angel, which has been really, really cool. And I love that they actually did get married, and they just feel like I think they needed all of this. Like I will never support this book that Nova published, but I think Ralph Angel and Darla, I think, got so much closer in kind of all of this, and their relationship feels healthier to me, whereas in the beginning, it felt like their relationship was still kind of linked with like certain conditions, like
Yeah.
making certain conditions met, but they now feel like they are actually on the same page. They're truly equals, and like the love is deeply there.
Yeah, that's real. That's great. Oh, is there anything else you want to talk about with Darla since we just mentioned her so much with Rock?
Yeah, nothing too much, but I've loved seeing her growth, especially, and I love that we are seeing more of her as a mother, like
Mhm.
her within Blue's life. And so super excited to see just like her pregnancy within season 6, like the upcoming season. Yeah, I'm just really excited for her. And I think I don't have a true like second favorite character, but I think her growth and like her like being able to set boundaries, like from season 1, season 2, like her being very clear, even when she's like struggling with like maintaining that clarity, she's definitely up there for me in terms of like a top 2, top 3, maybe person. Yeah.
Me as well. I definitely agree. I think we will move on to Aunt Violet.
I just want to say welcome to Vi's, Fries, Pies, and Dinah.
Yeah, Aunt Vi is so funny. She feels like I feel like Aunt Vi is present in every Black family. Like, I just feel like she's incredibly relatable, has gone through a lot, and I think knows many family secrets, holds and protects them. Like I think many Black people, many Black families feel like they have to. I struggle because I think, like I mentioned, I feel like Vi is a part of every Black family, and like, even if not in your own family, like an elder Black woman, you may be able to link to Aunt Vi's character. And so there's certain things where this could be put to be like more generational, like her being very headstrong about what is right versus what is wrong for Blue, the way in which she kind of like speaks matter of fact, like what I say goes and that's it. Like these are, generational elder, you respect your elders, like type things. And like there are other options and possibilities. And so I think this kind of connects to like Hollywood too. Like I think season 5 is where we kind of first see more like challenging of Vi, and like more challenging of it isn't simply like what you say goes. It isn't simply you are the matriarch of all of us, and so that we are going to move with you. Like this is another perspective, this is another possibility. Can we try to consider this? And I think Hollywood is the one who was able to kind of bring that forward. And I guess I'm curious if Hollywood would have been able to do that if like he didn't lose his mother. Yeah. Like I think a lot of that, him challenging Vi, was kind of wrapped up in grief and loss, like of his mom, and then also of this like exclusive Black man processing space. Like there were just so many layers. And so I'm curious if we would have saw that challenging, like as direct, had those things not happened to Hollywood. But I'm glad that we did see it, because my hope is that in season 6, she feels a little bit more open to other people and other things. Granted, I think I definitely understand where Vi comes from because of what she has experienced,
Yeah.
and then also just what she's seen within the community and what she's seen that we as like viewers and even the people in her family probably don't even know yet.
Yeah. I love Vi too, and I agree with a lot of what you say, because there are times I just like have to shake my head at Vi, like, come on, Vi. And I think, I mean, we talk about the acting in the show, and you can talk about Rutina, who plays Nova. You can talk about Don Leanne, who plays Charley, but I think Tina Lifford, who plays Vi, is right up there with them.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I had never really noticed her in anything before this show. And once I started watching this show, I realized that she had a small role in Scandal. She was like the CIA officer for a few episodes that will show up here and there, a couple of seasons. But yeah, she does an amazing job. The one thing I think about her though is when she insults them kids, like her highest insult is she'll be like, and your daddy will be ashamed of you.
Yes, yes.
You have done some things in your day, child. But this, your daddy would be ashamed. Ralph Angel, you a damn shame. And your daddy would be ashamed of you.
She loved to throw that out there. I just be like, that's her highest insult. You know, you don't really make her mad.
Absolutely.
But yeah, any I guess, was there more? I think you talked about Hollywood with Vi. I guess the only other character would have been Micah. Did you want to say any more about Micah?
Not too much about Micah. I think,
Okay.
yeah, we talked about his development, and I think most of my thoughts were covered with thinking about his relationship with Charley, but then also his relationship with his own Blackness.
Yeah. His relationship with Charley is definitely one of my favorite things about this show, and I get a great scene from them. Some of my favorite scenes are some of their scenes. Are there any other characters you want to hit on?
Yeah, the only kind of main one that comes to mind is Prosper.
Okay, Prosper, Mr.
Which
Prosper.
this connects to like what I'm curious and excited to see in season 6, because I'm assuming, at least I think that is his daughter that we're seeing in season 6 in the preview. But with Prosper, he is, I mean, all of them are my favorite characters. He's one of my favorite characters. And I think in season 5, like really seeing him kind of enveloped within the Bordelon family was really cool. Like multiple family members checking in on him within this experience of COVID, and then by bringing him into her home to make sure that he felt supported, and just hearing him really talk about his fears, like that relationship he had with Hollywood and Ralph Angel, to just candidly talk about what he was thinking through. So I'm curious to see, like, with his daughter coming in season 6, what that will be like, and if it's how it parallels like Charley and Ernest and like Prosper and his daughter, because I think it's season 4 where Charley brings Prosper into her own home during this threat of eviction, and then also like getting him checked in terms of health, and her encouragement of, you know, I know that you've maybe called your daughter once or twice, but I know for myself, like, I would have wanted to know that sense of urgency when it came to my own dad. And I'm sure the same for your daughter. And so excited to kind of see how that might parallel, and hoping that there's no kind of like tension. Like, I think there's a scene with Charley and Prosper's daughter like sitting at separate areas of possibly a bar, and I didn't know how to interpret that, but hoping there's really no tension between her and like the family. But yeah, he's a well-loved character to me, and I think even just the support that he has provided all of them has been really incredible to see too.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to that. I think there will be tension, and we can talk about that more when we do the predictions. I can't think of that actress name, but it's great to see her in something again as well. And the thing I missed in season 5 was we really didn't have any Charley Prosper scenes. They didn't really have any moments, and I know that was partly due to COVID too, because I think how they had them filmed was they filmed as the family group. So Charley, Micah, and Davis filmed scenes together, and then all of Rod and Darla scenes and stuff was together. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then I briefly wanted to hit on the farmers just because I think this is something another one of those characters you kind of have you got me softening my views on a little bit, but the farmers frustrate me so much. I get this sense of like maybe the sense of distrust that they may have, but I just feel like at the tad bit moment, every chance they get, they be so quick to turn on Charley, and I'd be like, what more does this woman have to do for y'all before? Like, even in the season 5, like Parker was like, yeah, we building the highway on this road, and the first thing they was then like, Charley, y'all really gonna take our graveyard? Like, do you not think Charley is fighting for this? So yeah, the farmers, I have a love-hate relationship with the farmers as well.
Yeah, the farmers are complicated, but they're real. They're real. And I think it is always cool to see like when they come around and like what it took for them to come around. Like the sense of mistrust is there. I think with the Parker situation, I mean, that even feels a little bit complicated because I don't think like who Parker is and like her father and all of these things, and even just like all of the strings she's orchestrating, like that isn't known. And so I think her, come into this community celebration and like all Black, she's a Black woman. Like, I think even those optics, like, yeah, we gonna turn and side-eye Charley a little bit, versus I think if it was like a white man, or maybe even that like Black board member who we've seen him kind of be more conservative and like not as much about the people. We've seen him in those town hall meetings. So I think maybe if it was him saying this, there could have been some, is this real? A little bit more grace for Charley. But I think seeing this Black woman who is also dressed a part of this event, like has dressed a part of the color scheme and seems to be about the vibe, even thanked Charley before she went into her speech. Like, I'm curious what role that could have played into them being like, Charley, what are y'all doing?
Yeah.
So.
See, you be advocating for these characters. All right, so I think we are gonna move on to our speed round. So I got 10 questions for you that I'm gonna ask you and see what your thoughts are. Okay.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna jump in slowly. Okay. So, would you rather live in St. Joe or NOLA and have to drive back to St. Joe?
I think St. Joe.
You live in St. Joe. Okay.
Yeah.
If you could get a slice of pie from Vi's Prize Pies, what would you get?
Oh gosh, I need to I need the menu, but I feel like there's a lemon one that we've heard about, like maybe a lemon cream pie. So I would try that one.
Okay, yeah, we definitely saw that. That was one of the pies that's the pie she did for the show when the lady came and interviewed her and stuff. Yeah. All right. Do you have a least favorite character?
A least favorite character. I think I'll say the woman who, oh, what is the family's name? The family the Borderlones are like battling.
Boudreaux's and Landry's.
The Boudreaux woman who went to jail and like Charley recorded. I don't remember her name.
Francis, I think.
Francis would be my least favorite.
Okay. Which chapter of Nova's book was worse? Talking about Vi or talking about Darla?
Oh, definitely Darla.
Definitely
Darla.
All right. What was Davis's worst scandal? The Melina Galudian or the secret love child?
I think Galudian, because we know that like there was no sense of consent there, and then also just like the layers of how deeply she felt their relationship was, and then also the added layer of Charley paying her off.
Okay. For Nova, would you rather she be with Calvin, Remy, or Octavia, the professor?
None of the above.
None of the above. You wouldn't give her any of them.
Oh man. Yeah, that. I mean, I think Remy would be the best of the three, but even that, like, I still don't support with how he did Charley. But of those three, Remy would be the best. Yeah.
Okay. So out of the three Borderlone jobs, would you rather be the farmer, the politician, or the writer?
This does not speak to a character favorite, but I would be a writer.
Okay. If you could change any decision a character made, what would it be?
I would change Nova's, I would change Nova's approach to writing her book, and like the way she connected with her family in writing the book. Like she didn't connect with them at all prior to writing it, and then also didn't even consult them in what she was writing. So I would have changed that.
Okay. What has been the saddest moment on the show for you?
The saddest. So two just came to mind. I think the first one was Micah with the cop, and like seeing how those flashbacks continuously show up. And then for Charley, like her feeling like she didn't have anyone to call, like her having to process, kind of go one by one in her thoughts, her family members, and realizing I cannot call them. And as a viewer, me thinking, is she about to die on my screen? She feels like she cannot call anyone. So those were two of the saddest moments that I think.
Okay. And what has been the happiest or most joyful moment on the screen, on the show?
Okay, so 2 moments, definitely, well, 3,
Okay.
a 2-part. So the weddings, so Vi in Hollywood and Ralph Angel and Darla, those have been really joy and love filled, I think. And like, yeah, I loved both of those weddings. And then Vi's Pies, like the launch of the restaurant, the kind of like parade performance, like in the opening. So I really loved that as well.
Okay. That was it. That was the 10. So they weren't too bad, were they?
No, those were good. Those were good questions.
All right. So I think really just ending up is wanted to do a preview of season 6. So we will watch the trailer together and then maybe talk about some of our thoughts, okay?
Cool. Sounds good.
Here come trouble.
Double trouble.
Hey, you! Hey, what up, man? What's up, man? Here's to not letting the bad days get the best of us.
Ain't nothing too good for you or my little angel.
I want to thank you for being here.
You don't have to thank me, Daddy.
Charley Butterlong, I've known you longer than you've known yourself. What's up?
Coast clear?
Everything's perfect.
Oh my, what a wonderful time we're alive in.
I feel like the world sees me as a problem.
Oh my, what a wonder we're still surviving.
You are a beautiful, strong sister.
You could make an excellent candidate for state senator.
And I've been having these like moments at school.
What kind of moments?
Turn it off, shake it off, push it off to another day.
Your father's greatest legacy is not land, it's family.
And a bit too late. What are we waiting? What are we waiting for?
You now delinquent on your payments, sir. 60 days.
I got a way you can make some cash. I didn't know the truth was an option. I didn't know.
Fix your faces, ladies. You're giving yourselves away.
You stole it, and you were caught red-handed.
Give me 5, partner.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm so nervous for Ralph Angel's storyline. I didn't like seeing that. I think the first time I watched it, I feel like my heart dropped, and even again, like it still does. So yeah, I don't know what to make of Ralph Angel's storyline, and I think I wasn't able to tell like if that Landry, like Parker's dad Landry, like if he may play some role in kind of like supporting the Borderlone family, possibly like supporting Ralph Angel in some way, because I think he was on the farm, and that clip was right after Ralph Angel being stopped by the police. I did not notice until this rewatch Prosper in the hospital gown, and so don't know what to make of that, hoping he doesn't have COVID, but I guess that would, him being in the hospital gown makes more sense to me why his daughter has come down. And I'm curious, does this connect to some of the health issues that were in season 4 that Charley was like supporting him with? And if it does, then yeah, I can see Charley and like his daughter maybe having some beef because why didn't you tell me, like sort of thing. It looks like Blue is thriving in DC, and like Vi maybe coming around to him being in DC, so that feels really cool. With Micah, I'm curious and kind of hoping that maybe we have a queer storyline, like him exploring his sexuality, like
that's
feeling
what it looked like to me.
Yeah, feeling conflicted and exploring his sexuality. So that feels really exciting to me. And I think, again, in terms of like Black representation, isn't something we see much of, like at all, within full Black families. So that feels really exciting. Nova, I mean, Black love, it seems to be present, but I'm still struggling with like how to connect how we ended season 5 with where it looks like Nova is seen in a very joy-filled state, with the exception of that picture of like the target over her face. And so I don't know how those two things will go together, but yeah, curious.
Yeah, I'm assuming that since you just ended on Nova, I feel like maybe it has something to do with her truth papers, that she's maybe uncovering some things, and maybe she's making some enemies that way, or people not liking her. It definitely interested to see how she handles Black love again, because she has not handled it well on this show. I definitely got the same feelings about Micah, and it's going to be interesting because I also think what reinforced it for me even more is looked like they had a clip of him almost about to have a set scene or something with a young woman, and we've never seen that before either. So it was like those two, and then like a couple of cuts later, him walking in the park with the friend. So it'd be very. If that is the direction they're going, I'm definitely looking forward to how that plays out within the family, because from my experience, even though there's a lot of stigma still around queer and trans people in Black communities, I feel like it's even more heightened when it's the men compared to the women. Because Nova in her sexuality has been embraced and valued, and I wouldn't say maybe not valued. It hasn't been valued and uplifted, but it at least has been embraced and not targeted or pushed to the side in the family. So it's going to be interesting, or at least by none of the characters that's still alive. Maybe there was something with Ernest there. So it'd be interesting to see if that is the road Micah goes down, or the things he starts thinking about, how that's received by the family, particularly Charley, because I think out of all of the growth and development Charley has had, one of the things that she continues to struggle with, though, is her vision, Micah not living within the vision that she has for him. And I definitely don't think him being anywhere on the spectrum of LGBT is on the vision that she has for him. So it'd be interesting. And I would be interested to see Vi's reaction to it, like that old school mentality. Something that stuck out to me was Hollywood was playing with a little kid, and it was not Blue. So I'd be interested to see, are they like trying to adopt a kid or something? And I wonder how rekindling this relationship with Davis, would Charley have to confront some of her old things too? Because like, would that impact her political run and her trying to have a political career now and stuff like that? So that's gonna be interesting.
That's a good point. I think in addition to like the vision Charley has for Micah in terms of her son, I think that vision, as it relates to wanting him to be positioned in the best place he can as a Black man, and adding in the layer of Black queer, like for her, what that means within society. And so if that's the route that they're going in, I mean, within every season, there is some issue of like social commentary that is done. And so I would be curious if there would be like an added layer of issues that specifically impact LGBTQ folks and like Black queer folks specifically, If there would be a continued thread around police brutality, even thinking about that heightened kind of sense of targeting when it comes to Black queers. So curious if that will be explored. And yeah, I didn't even pay attention to Hollywood playing with the child. I think even when you said Hollywood's name, I was like, was he even in the trailer? It's so curious if like, will he open up this talk space? Like, will that be a thing, or has his direction totally shifted to possibly adopting? Because I do know having kids is something it sounds like he did want through, we've heard that through his mom and like him saying, it's fine because I love Vi. And so curious, in the passing of his mom, has this like want for a child, or even like Darla now being pregnant, and so there will be another child in the family soon, if that's maybe like reignited something for him. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. And we'll definitely have to talk about, how if we get together and recap or something like that. So
yes, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Well, I think that was all I had for today. Did you have any last thoughts you wanted to share, or things you want to hit on? All things Queen Sugar?
Yeah, no additional thoughts, but I'm just curious to hear from you. Like, what has it been like? I mean, watching the seasons live, but then also rewatching them a couple of times, and just what has that sort of like deep engagement with the show been like for you? Because I know for myself, there's been some shows that I've rewatched, like How to Get Away with Murder, I've rewatched, but I've never, in the way you've deeply engaged with Queen Sugar and watching live and rewatching a couple of times, and then even thinking deeply about some of the themes, I haven't had that experience with the show. And so curious what it's just generally been like for you.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't rewatch it until before season 4, I believe. It's the first time that I rewatched it, just to prepare. I think I did it just to prepare myself for season 4, and then I rewatched it again, seasons 1 through 4, before season 5. Really, because it had been so long. It had been at least like a year and a half since season, or maybe even longer, between season 4 and season 5. I think for me, one of the things is, one of the first things that I see is just the growth and the development of the characters. Really all of them, and how, or there's been, really just like the sense of how the characters are in such a different place than they were at the very beginning. Particularly, I think that's why I love Charley more, because I just see all of the things that I had in my notes. Charley was basically, she started this show off like she started this show at the beginning of the first episode, like on this high, like living this great lavish life, and by the end of that episode, she had been broken, right? She basically found out her marriage, there was betrayal, and she lost her dad. And then I feel like since then there has just been continuously like growth and building and examination and reconciliation. So I think about that with all of the characters. I think about Micah's development. I think that we've talked about. It gives me, I feel like I know these characters a lot. I almost feel like part of their family just by watching it so much. I think some of it gives me more of an appreciation, I think, of just thinking about how well this show has been. Because, a lot of shows, they are like, you get like a great first season, right? And then they come back in the second season and it never lives back up to how great the first season is, or they try too hard to live back up to that standard, um and there's lows, or there's times when the season isn't as enjoyable. And I just don't think that this show has had that. I think it has been excellence throughout and holistically. So excellent acting, excellent writing. I feel like it looks great. Like I mean, maybe other than Insecure, I don't know a show that Black people look that good on screen, like is lit just for them. Then I think about how Ava goes out and every episode is directed by a woman. Like a lot of, she gives people their first directorial television debut on her show. So I just think about that. When I think of Queen Sugar, I think of excellence, and I get kind of frustrated that maybe it doesn't get some of like the accolades and some of the recognition that I feel like it deserved. But also, there's also something about it, and I think it kind of fits to the heart of the show, that without all of those stuff, it keeps going and it keeps being excellent and it keeps bringing quality episodes and telling great stories. So that's kind of my thoughts with it. Watching it live, I guess in a sense, was not as bad because it's not like it's a show that I started binging. Like I think this season is gonna be tough for you because you're not used to this. You used to accessing it when you ready. But I'm kind of used to having to wait weekly for it and stuff. So I think it's giving me time to actually process I've had time to like, I'm able to process by the time the next episode happens. Because I'll be honest, normally, especially the last couple of seasons, I probably will watch the episode a second time before the next week too, as well. So yeah, I don't think I could say enough good things about it, or do it justice. But yeah, I love it.
That's awesome.
If I had to, out of the 10 questions, the one I would really want to answer if there was a moment I would change that a character did, and the biggest thing that I would change I would have Charley let the farmers go home during the hurricane episode in the first season. That's like, out of all the things that she's done, that feel like if I could live with the rest of them if I could just change that one thing.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah. I'm thinking about just that re-showing up in season 4. And I think kind of, again, in terms of like a theme of this show, like how connected everything is and how people like are honored. And in season 1, they did not even know any of these farmers' names. They struggled to even identify some type of family to them. And then in season 4, we kind of, in Charley's like attempt to build relationships with the Latinx community there, and kind of seeing honoring in that way, but then also these farmers again being brought up with her conversations with that doctor. No one is forgotten. So,
and that just made me think of one other thing too. I think they do what you were saying, how things are connected and they break it up. I also feel like they do such a good job of when they do introduce new information to us, that it feels organic to the characters. Like because I remember I think back to season 2, and I think there was times when I watched season 1, I was like, I wonder who Charlie's mom is and what that story is. But even though I knew she was light skinned, it never was popping in my head like Charlie's mom is white until they show her on screen, and they did like this. They try to psych us out because they had like this light skinned woman in the foreground, and they switched the focus, and then you see this white lady just coming to focus, and I was like, and I just think about those moments, like every time they introduce something, like even when they introduced Nova had this thing with her professor, it was like, wow, that, like that's it feels so organic. Everything just feels so organic to the characters, and I just think that's a big praise of the writing as well, that you can introduce these new bits and pieces of information with characters that we have 4 or 5 seasons with already, and it doesn't like make you like shake your head or feels like a jerk reaction. It feels like, okay, that made sense why she did this in season 2 now, because about that. So
right. I mean, even like the information related to, is it like Nova's, that shared relative?
Yeah.
Like that shared relative with the Landrys, and then like how the reaction of Francis, like how that connects to her brother's like kind of foresight of protecting his daughter. And it's just like, I mean, even the layers of Parker's origin story, like I'm hoping amidst this feud between Charley and Parker, we learn even just a little bit more with that, because I always found it so interesting, that scene with Vi calling in that favor and him asking about his daughter, even though he knew, like him knowing, like actively having a relationship with Parker. But I always found that to be really interesting.
Yeah.
And hope we learn a little bit more like about that.
Yeah. And that's just like another example, because it's like, even because you was like, okay, Vi, what Vi finna do in this moment?
Right,
and he was like, but that seems so Vi, a Vi thing to do. Like it's just, yeah. I'm definitely very much looking forward to it. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have many more discussions in the coming weeks. All right. Well, thank you so much, Megan. Again, this was great. You were my first guest.
This is
hopefully I made you feel welcome, and I handled it as well. And for everybody out there, please leave us feedback, comments. If you want to engage in the conversation, if there feel like some themes or things that we missed, please let us know. We'll definitely be willing to talk about it. I think we both could talk about Queen Sugar all day, honestly. So
literally, yes. But yeah, this has been great, Tyrus. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Thank you.